When the jet door suddenly opened, the millionaire froze. Before him lay a ragged girl, curled up asleep, clutching an old, battered doll. In that instant, he had no idea that the decision he was about to make would forever change both of their lives. Before we begin the story, please leave a comment below and tell me what city you're watching from today. Let's follow these heart-touching stories together, these endearing tales I wish to share with you. And now, let's begin the story. What city are you watching this video from? And what time is it? By the way, if you're enjoying my videos, I'd be so happy if you could subscribe to my channel and like this video. The earring hit the tile floor, shattering into tiny pieces. The sharp sound echoed in the already cold room, making the air feel even heavier. Maya stood motionless, her eyes wide and trembling, her small hands shaking with fear. She was only 8 years old, thin, with matted hair. In that moment, all she felt was her heart tightening, her breath catching in her throat. Vanessa Reed, 37, and the second wife of Thomas Johnson, turned sharply. Her eyes were like knives stabbing into the trembling child. Her curly hair was styled with gloss, her lips painted a deep red, a face capable of dazzling. But in her fury, only bitterness remained. "You clumsy brat," Vanessa shouted, her voice shrill and cutting. "You are nothing but a burden in this house." In the corner of the room, Thomas Johnson, Maya's 42-year-old biological father, was slumped in an old chair. He held a glass of whiskey in his hand, the smell of alcohol permeating every breath. His face was haggard, his eyes bloodshot. He didn't even bother to look up, only muttering, "Enough. Too much noise." Maya looked at him, a fragile hope in her eyes, as if he might stand up and defend her, just like he used to when he carried her on his shoulders through the neighborhood. But all she found was indifference. Her father was nothing more than a tired shadow, drowned in alcohol. Vanessa lunged forward, grabbing Maya's hair and pulling hard. Pain shot through the girl's scalp, and she fell to her knees, tears welling up, though she didn't dare sob. "Clean it all up."
"Right now!"
Vanessa screamed, pointing to the glittering fragments scattered on the floor. Maya trembled as she knelt, her small fingers shaking as she picked up each broken piece. A sharp edge dug into her fingertip, making it burn with pain. She bit her lip hard, holding back a sob. In her mind, a voice repeated, "Don't cry. Don't let them see you. Don't cry." Thomas glanced up for a second, then looked down and emptied his glass. He remained silent as if none of it mattered. That silence was crueler than Vanessa's screams. Later that night, when the house sank into darkness, Maya sat in her tiny room, furnished only with an old bed and a wobbly table. A faint ray of moonlight slipped through a crack in the window. She stroked her injured hand. The cut was already drying into a reddish line. Her small heart ached, but what hurt most was her father's indifference. From under the bed, Maya pulled out a hidden wooden box. Inside was an old notebook, with a worn cover and a frayed yarn doll, the last memory of her mother. Her mother, Mary, had died of an illness 3 years prior. Maya remembered her mother's eyes as the cough wouldn't stop, the thin hand stroking her hair, and the weak whisper, "You have to live well, Maya, even when I'm not with you." But those memories cut her soul like knives. She hugged the doll tightly, took a deep breath, and whispered, "Mom, I can't take it anymore." Carefully, she put the notebook and the doll into a cloth bag. She stood up, tiptoeing toward the door. The wood creaked as she opened it. She paused, looking toward the living room where her father was still passed out. For a moment, she wanted to run to him, to shake him awake. But she remembered the coldness in his eyes when he'd watched her being dragged by the hair. Maya turned and closed the door behind her. Outside, the night wind whipped her messy hair. Maya adjusted her thin blouse and kept walking. The street was empty. Yellow streetlights cast long shadows of her tiny figure on the pavement. In her mind, one thought repeated over and over, "I have to leave. If I stay, they'll kill me. I have to leave." Her steps led her to an open field near the Scottsdale private airfield. In the darkness, a jet appeared before her eyes. Floodlights illuminated the fuselage, showing the registration number. MJ1865. Maya froze. Her heart pounded. She approached, her lips trembling. "Mary Johnson. That's my mom's name. MJ." She felt as if something invisible was guiding her. She placed her hand on the cold letters, her voice shaking. "Mom, did you bring me here?" She found the plane stairs. The door was slightly ajar, leaving a gap. Maya pushed with all her might. The door opened with a soft hiss. No one stopped her. Maya's small feet climbed each cold metal step. Inside the spacious cabin, the air was still and cold. She curled up, finding a seat in the corner, hugging her doll tightly to her chest. "I'll just stay here for tonight," she whispered, her breaths ragged. Gradually, her eyelids grew heavy. Her body was exhausted. In the darkness, Maya curled up like a small sparrow. She fell asleep, unaware that this decision would change her life forever. Dawn broke over the vast expanse of the Arizona desert. The faint sunlight bathed the rows of hangars in a pale golden glow. The normally silent Scottsdale airfield began to stir. Technicians checked tires and fuel. No one noticed that inside a luxury jet, a small girl was curled up, her breath hot, her fragile body lost in the grip of a fever. Not far away, at the majestic Monroe estate, Alexander Alex Monroe had been awake for hours. At 44, he still had the polished poise of a successful businessman, but his tired face, with permanent shadows under his eyes, betrayed exhaustion. Alex was the owner of Monroe Aviation, once celebrated in the press as the master of the skies. But behind the spotlight, he was just a man living alone in an immense house, devoid of the sound of laughter or the warmth of a family. As he descended the staircase, Alex was greeted by his longtime housekeeper, Mrs. Teresa. The 60-year-old woman radiated a serene, gentle air, her silver hair neatly tied back. "Flying for business again today, Mr. Monroe?" she asked, adjusting the shawl on her shoulder. Alex nodded slightly, his voice deep and firm. "New York City, a shareholders' meeting, just a few days." She looked at him, as if wanting to say something, but remained silent. Alex put on his suit jacket, adjusted his tie, and walked slowly to the door. He paused, his eyes drifting unconsciously to a framed photo in the living room, the faded photograph of his smiling wife. His voice came out as barely a whisper. "I'm going alone again today." Mrs. Teresa heard him, her eyes softening with sadness. She was used to her employer's loneliness. The luxury car took Alex to his private airfield. He stepped out and shook hands with his chief pilot. Everything seemed routine, until Alex set foot on the stairs leading to the cabin. The door was ajar, not firmly closed as it always was. Alex froze, frowning. His sharp instinct told him something was wrong. He turned to the pilot, his tone low and firm. "This door. Who opened it?" The pilot looked surprised. "Sir, I checked everything carefully last night. It was secure. No one reported anything unusual." Alex said no more. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. He flicked on the light switch. Clarity flooded the cabin, lined with soft leather seats. Everything was as it should be, except in the last corner. He stood motionless. A small figure was huddled there. Her hair was a tangled mess, her face flushed, her breathing shallow and fast. The girl was clutching a worn-out doll, her chapped lips murmuring incoherent, weak words. Alex rushed over, kneeling beside her. He put his hand on her forehead. The heat was alarming, enough to make him snatch his hand back. "My God, she's burning up. Where did this child come from?" The little girl let out a faint moan. The doll slipped from her hands. Alex picked it up. For an instant, his heart contracted. It was old, with frayed yarn hair, but he could tell it had once been cherished. He turned sharply to the pilot, his gaze intense. "Call a doctor, immediately." The pilot hesitated. "Shouldn't we notify the police, sir? This is trespassing." "No," Alex interrupted, his voice sharper than usual. "If we call the police, they'll send her back to her home, and that is precisely the place that has left her like this." The certainty in his tone silenced the pilot. Alex looked back at the girl, his chest tightening with a forgotten pain. Memories of his late wife returned in a rush. She too had once lain like this, feverish, struggling for breath. He had been helpless as the doctor shook his head. He had sworn never to let anyone into his heart again, yet now, a fragile stranger had awakened something he couldn't turn away from. He took off his coat and wrapped it around the small, trembling body. Alex lifted her. She was so light he felt as if he were holding a single leaf. Get the car ready. Cancel the flight, he ordered curtly. The chauffeur opened the door. Alex carefully placed the girl in the back seat and buckled the seatbelt. He sat beside her, no longer worried about briefcases, documents, or any important meeting. Only the girl mattered now. The car sped down the highway, slowly illuminating with the morning sun. Alex watched her flushed face, her trembling lips. In her feverish delirium, the girl whispered, "No, don't take me back home. Mom." The words froze Alex in place. His hand tightened unconsciously on the steering wheel. The cold eyes he usually wore now burned with a strange, searing emotion. He murmured softly, as if making an oath to himself. "You won't go back to that place." "Not ever. I won't allow it." The car raced toward the hospital. Alex never would have imagined that an ordinary morning would become the turning point of his life. A man who had closed his heart was now holding a fragile soul in his arms, unaware that from that moment on, both their destinies would change forever. The car screeched to a halt at the hospital entrance. Alex pushed the door open, holding the girl tightly in his arms. He ran straight into the emergency area. "Emergency! A child, high fever! I need help immediately!" His voice echoed in the hallway. 2 medical staff members quickly placed the girl on a gurney, checked her vitals, and rushed her into a room. Alex followed closely, his hand not leaving hers until the door swung shut. A middle-aged doctor in a white coat introduced himself as Dr. Gutierrez. His tone was firm but calm. "The girl has a very high fever and chills, but you got her here just in time. We need to lower her temperature, start fluids, and keep her under observation. Don't worry, Mr. Monroe. We'll do everything we can." Alex nodded, but his eyes remained fixed on the small glass window where nurses were attending to the girl. Inside, the small child shivered, her lips moving as if calling for someone. Alex clenched his fists, his chest tight. That night, Alex did not leave the hospital. He sat in the hallway, his back against the wall, his gaze locked on the ICU door. A nurse came out to report that the girl's condition had stabilized. Alex followed her inside. On the hospital bed, the little girl was curled up, her face pale. Beside her pillow lay the old doll, likely placed there by a nurse. Alex pulled up a chair and sat down, listening to her ragged breathing. Suddenly, in her delirium, she whispered, Mommy, don't leave me." Alex's heart seized, as if clenched by a fist. The memories rushed back. His wife, lying in the same way, her gaze fading. He had been powerless then, watching the only love of his life slip away. And now, an unknown child was speaking those same words right in front of him. Alex leaned in, murmuring so low it was barely audible. "I won't let that happen again. Not ever." At dawn, soft light spilled into the room. Maya, the 8-year-old girl, slowly opened her swollen eyes. The first thing she saw was the white ceiling. Then she turned and saw a strange man sitting beside her. Maya startled. She immediately recoiled, clutching her doll with both arms, her eyes filled with terror. She was shaking. "Please." Her voice broke. "Please don't take me back home."
"I don't want to go back."
"I'm so scared." Tears streamed down her face again, soaking her pillow. Her whole body trembled as if the slightest touch might break her. Alex held up his hands to show he meant no harm. His voice was low and warm. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you." Maya stared at him, her eyes filled with fear and hopelessness. It was the look of a child betrayed too many times, who no longer knew who to trust. Alex swallowed hard and asked slowly, "Can you tell me who made you so afraid?" A heavy silence fell. Maya lowered her head, clutching the doll so tightly her knuckles turned white. After a long pause, her voice came out as barely a whisper. My dad, and her." Alex closed his eyes, his fists clenching until the veins stood out. He understood. Her own father and stepmother. The very people who should have protected her had thrown her out into the night. Rage coursed through his chest, but he contained it, refusing to let it explode in front of the child. He spoke slowly, each word firm. "You don't have to worry anymore. No one here will ever hurt you again." Maya looked up, her tear-filled eyes no longer holding just fear, but a faint glimmer of hope. She nodded with a slight tremble, then pressed closer to the pillow, as if testing whether she could believe that promise. At noon, a nurse brought broth. Maya still couldn't eat much, but when Alex gently encouraged her, she managed a few small sips. He didn't force her. He just sat by her side, silent and patient. This man, who had always been consumed by business, was now content to spend hours by the bed of a virtual stranger, just waiting for her to try a little food. Later, Alex stepped into the hallway. He remembered the day his wife died. He clearly recalled the feeling of her fragile hand slipping from his. He remembered the doctor's words, "We did everything possible." That pain had led him to close his heart, vowing never to be hurt again. But now, looking at the girl lying in that room, he understood he no longer had a choice. He spoke in a low voice. "I let the person I loved most slip away once, but this time I can't." When he returned to the room, Dr. Gutierrez was standing by the bed. He looked up at Alex. "Her condition is more stable, but she needs continued observation. We require a legal guardian to sign the consent forms." Alex stood still. A question that seemed simple suddenly felt immensely heavy. He turned toward the small girl. She was watching him, too, her eyes still damp, not fully trusting, but no longer terrified. The silence stretched. Alex took a deep breath. In that instant, he heard her feverish whisper again. "Don't take me back, Mom." His eyes softened. He turned to the doctor, his voice low but firm. "From now on, I will be." Before we continue, please take a moment to leave a comment about this story and rate it from 1 to 10. How are you feeling? If there's anything you'd like to share, I'm always here to listen. I hope you find a moment of peace and reflection as you follow this healing story and its journey of courage and justice. When the discharge papers were ready, Alex calmly signed his name. He put the pen away, took a deep breath, and then turned to the girl sitting on the hospital bed. Still clutching the old doll, Alex approached, bending down, and spoke with a tenderness that was unusual for him. "Let's go home, Maya." She nodded slightly, saying nothing. The car pulled away from the hospital, sunset light spreading over the city. Alex sat beside Maya in the back seat. He didn't say anything, just watched her from time to time. The girl remained silent, her eyes fixed on the window, though her shoulders trembled slightly. When the car stopped in front of the Monroe estate, Maya looked up. Her eyes widened as she gazed at the tall, intricate iron gates. The gate slowly opened, revealing a wide gravel courtyard, manicured flower beds, and a solid 3-story house with a gray-tiled roof. The car stopped. Alex opened the door and held out his hand. Maya got out, her small feet hesitating on the gravel. The large wooden doors opened. Mrs. Teresa, the housekeeper, stepped out. When she saw Alex with a child in his arms, a spark of surprise crossed her face. "Mr. Monroe?" Alex was direct. "Mrs. Teresa, this is Maya. She will be staying here from now on." The woman looked at the fragile girl, her heart softening. She nodded gently, approaching and lowering her voice. "Hello, my dear. I'm Teresa, but you can call me Mrs. T." Maya just shrank closer to Alex, giving a slight nod. From the living room, a female voice called out, "Alex? What's going on?" Rebecca Monroe, 41, Alex's sister-in-law, emerged. Rebecca was a widow who lived at the estate to help with the family's charitable foundation. When she saw the girl in Alex's arms, she froze. "Who is this? Where did you bring this poor creature from?" Alex settled Maya on the living room sofa. "This is Maya," he said softly. "From now on, she lives with us." Rebecca's eyes filled with questions, but when she saw the girl clutching the doll, her shoulders trembling, her heart ached. She sat beside her, offering a tender smile. "Hello, sweetheart. I'm Rebecca. You can call me Aunt Rebecca. You'll be safe here." Maya barely looked up, saying nothing, but her small hands gripped the doll tighter. That night, the long dining table gleamed. Alex sat at the head, Rebecca to his left. Maya stood stiffly in the corner of the room, too frightened to sit, her eyes darting over the shiny utensils before dropping to the floor. "Maya, come here. Sit down," Alex said gently. "This is your home now." The girl shook her head, her feet glued to the floor, as if expecting to be yelled at. Rebecca stood up and approached her, her voice calm. You can sit next to me. No one here is going to scold you." Maya hesitated, then slowly moved and sat on the very edge of the chair. Her trembling hands held the spoon. As she lifted it, her hands shook so much that it slipped, clattering loudly against the table. She flinched violently, panic shining in her eyes. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please don't be angry with me." Her voice trembled, and tears streamed down her cheeks. Alex put his own spoon down. His tone was firm but calm. "It's all right. It's just a spoon. No one here will ever hit you for that." Maya froze, staring at him, her eyes wide. It was the first time in her life she had heard an adult say those words. The next morning at the estate, Alex sat with Maya in the small study. He placed a sheet of paper in front of her with basic addition problems. "Now try to solve these," he said calmly. Maya took the pencil, writing slowly. Halfway through she stopped, looking down, her voice a trembling murmur. I'm stupid. My stepmother always told me that." Alex paused. He extended his hand and placed it gently on her shoulder. "Don't you believe them?" he said softly but firmly. "You are smarter than you think. If you make a mistake, I'll teach you again. But never, ever put yourself down." Maya looked up, her eyes filling with a mixture of doubt and surprise. After a moment, she looked back down and continued writing. In the afternoon, Rebecca took Maya into town. "Pick any book you like," Rebecca said, smiling. Maya shyly walked through the aisles. Her eyes stopped on a book with a cover showing a small wooden house by a stream. She clutched it to her chest and whispered, "I want this one." On the way back, 2 neighbors were at the gate, looking on curiously. "Who's that child?" one asked quietly. Rebecca didn't hesitate. She placed her hand on Maya's shoulder and answered firmly, "She's this family's daughter." Maya stood motionless, her little heart trembling, as if it had just discovered a place called home. But the next morning, something unexpected happened. The daily newspaper was on the kitchen table. The headline in large, bold letters made Alex freeze. "Billionaire Monroe, unexpectedly harboring mysterious child." A photo of him carrying Maya at the hospital was splashed across the front page. In a grimy bar on the outskirts of town, Vanessa Reed stared at the same paper, her lips curling into a venomous smile. Beside her, Thomas looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights and alcohol. "That brat," Vanessa hissed, "just became gold." "We have to get her back," Thomas flinched. "Alex Monroe, he's not someone you can fight, Vanessa. We'll lose." "You're such a fool, Tom," she sneered. "She's your blood. The birth certificate still exists. You are the legal father. The law is on our side." Vanessa leaned in, her voice firm and poisonous. "Alex is rich, famous. But those same things will drown him. We'll make everyone believe he kidnapped your daughter. When the public outcry explodes, he'll have no choice but to give Maya back to us." Thomas's head remained down, but in the end he gave a slight, bitter nod. The next day, in an elegant law office downtown, Vanessa and Tom met with Julian Torres. Torres was known for manipulating the media and twisting the truth to win. "You want to sue Monroe?" Torres said, a dangerous smile playing on his lips. "He's rich, powerful, but that power can easily become a burden. We'll prove Monroe abducted Mr. Johnson's biological daughter. The press will repeat this story over and over. I guarantee you, he will surrender." A few days later, Alex and Rebecca took Maya to a park near the estate. Maya was wearing a simple dress Rebecca had bought her, still clutching her old doll. "You can feed them these crumbs," Rebecca said gently, handing her a small bag. Maya hesitated, then scattered a few crumbs. The birds fluttered down, and for the first time, she let out a soft, pure laugh. The peace lasted only minutes. Suddenly, a figure lunged forward. It was Thomas. He grabbed Maya's hand, his voice hoarse from alcohol. "Maya, come back to your father." Maya panicked, screaming, "No! No, I don't want to go back. Don't make me!" Alex reacted instantly, pulling Maya behind him, his voice like steel. "Let her go. She's my daughter." Thomas slurred, waving a crumpled birth certificate. "I have every right." "It's my blood!" Rebecca stepped in front of Maya. "Get out of here, Tom. You have no right to her anymore." The police were called. 2 officers arrived. A young officer reviewed the birth certificate, then looked at Alex. Mr. Monroe, for now, Mr. Johnson has documents showing a biological relationship. We cannot hand the child over to either of you until the court decides. The gray morning of the trial, reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Alex stepped out of a black car, his face calm but his eyes tense. Maya followed, clutching her old doll, her legs trembling. Rebecca leaned in to whisper, "Whatever happens, you are not alone." In the courtroom, Vanessa Reed was dressed in formal black, her eyes red and swollen, dabbing at them with a tissue, the very image of a heartbroken mother. Beside her, Thomas sat with his head bowed, feigning repentance. Julian Torres stood first. "Your Honor," he began, his voice smooth, "this is a simple matter. Mr. Alex Monroe, a recognized millionaire, has exploited the difficulties of the Johnson family to take this child. He has no blood ties, no legal right. His only motive? To clean up his reputation, to build the image of a benevolent hero. This child must be returned to her real parents." Vanessa let out a stage sob. "My daughter! Please give me back my daughter!" Alex's lawyer, David Herrera, a respected gray-haired man, stood slowly. "Your Honor, justice is not limited to paperwork. It is found in the truth. And the truth is that this child was abandoned and subjected to emotional and physical abuse in the very house they call family. If we force her to return to that nightmare, what value does justice have?" He paused. "Today, I want the child herself to say what she desires." Torres scoffed. "Objection. An 8-year-old child is easily manipulated. She will be heard." The judge, a stern man named Ramirez, stated firmly. The room fell silent as Rebecca gently guided Maya forward. The judge asked gently, "Child, what do you want to tell the court?" Maya looked up, her voice trembling. I don't want to go back to that house." Torres jumped to his feet. "Objection. This is an emotional outburst." "Silence." The judge banged his gavel. "Let her continue." Maya took a deep breath, tears rolling down her face as she forced the words out. I never have enough to eat there. They hit me. They scream at me. My stepmother makes me work all day, cleaning and cooking. My dad, he just drinks. I'm so scared. I just want to stay with him." Her small, trembling hand pointed directly at Alex. A shocked silence covered the room, then erupted in murmurs. The trial dragged on. Torres tried to maneuver, but Herrera was relentless. He called witnesses. A middle-aged man in a worn coat stepped forward. "I'm one of Mrs. Reed's creditors. She pawned everything in the house to gamble. None of that money was for the child. It was all for alcohol and betting." Next, a neighbor, an elderly woman. "I saw that child many times running to my house to beg for food. I reported it, but nothing ever happened." Herrera placed more files on the table. "Your Honor, these are Maya Johnson's hospital records, confirming she was admitted in a state of severe malnutrition and pneumonia caused by neglect. The doctor stated that if she had not been treated in time, she might not have survived." Judge Ramirez's expression grew severe. "Mr. Torres, how do you explain the official Child Services report, which states Maya Johnson was forced to work and frequently deprived of food?" Torres for the first time stammered. Herrera turned his sharp gaze on Thomas. "Mr. Johnson, is it true you took the money meant for your first wife's medical treatment and gambled it away?" Thomas looked up, his face slick with sweat. His lips trembled, and suddenly he collapsed into sobs. "Yes, I took the money. I let her die. I regret it, but it's too late." He buried his face in his hands, weeping uncontrollably. At that moment, an officer handed the judge another envelope. Judge Ramirez opened it, read a few lines, and his eyes flashed with anger. He looked at Julian Torres. "Mr. Torres, do you have an explanation for why the evidence you submitted last week has altered dates and content? We have confirmation from the archives that the original is completely different." The room erupted. "Evidence tampering," a reporter whispered. Vanessa Reed could not take it anymore. She leaped to her feet, screaming, her eyes crazed. "That girl is mine. She has to stay with me. She has to suffer, just like I did. She can't be happy in someone else's arms." The chilling sound echoed through the court. Maya burst into tears, burying her face in Alex's chest. He held her tightly, his eyes dark. He knew Vanessa had just buried herself with those words. The courtroom doors swung open. 2 police officers walked directly to Vanessa. "Vanessa Reed, you are under arrest for financial fraud, illegal gambling, and suspected money laundering." The metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut resonated as Vanessa thrashed and howled. Judge Ramirez slammed his gavel, his voice deep and firm. "After reviewing all evidence, witness testimonies, and the report from social services, this court hereby declares permanent custody of Maya Johnson is granted to Mr. Alexander Monroe." The declaration struck like thunder. Alex sank to his knees in the center of the courtroom, extending his arms, his usually firm eyes shining with tears. "Maya, come here." Maya looked at him, her own eyes flooding. She dropped the doll she had been clutching and ran into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Alex held her, burying his chin in her tangled hair, whispering like an oath. "From this moment on, you will never be abandoned again. I promise you." From the defendant's side, Thomas looked up, his red, hazy eyes watching his daughter in Alex's arms. "Maya," he choked out, "I'm sorry. I was so wrong." But Maya didn't look back. The courtroom doors opened. Alex carried Maya down the steps, shielding her from the flashing cameras. Inside the car, there were no more shouts, only the steady hum of the engine. Alex sat Maya on his lap, his arms still around her. Maya looked up, her eyes swollen and red. She hesitated, as if afraid the fragile moment would break. "Dad?" A single trembling word. It hit Alex's heart like a bell. He froze, his breath catching. It was the word he had longed for but never dared to force. He leaned down, placing a soft kiss on her hair, his voice choked with emotion but firm. "Yes, Dad is here." Maya broke into tears again, but these were clear, no longer loaded with fear. She hugged him for the first time, with all her strength. A few weeks later, the morning light streamed into the Monroe estate. The garden was decorated with simple white ribbons. It was a small, intimate ceremony. Maya, wearing a new white dress, held a sheaf of documents with a red seal, certifying that Alexander Monroe had officially and permanently become her adoptive father. Alex stood in the grand hall. When Maya approached, he opened his arms. "Come here, my girl," she ran to him. He lifted her high, and she burst into laughter, a clear sound of joy that filled the home. Later, Alex stood before the small gathering. "Today, I want to share something. I have created the Mary Johnson Foundation, a charity named after Maya's mother. This foundation will help orphans, abandoned children, and those who have suffered injustice, like my daughter. I want to transform this pain into strength." Applause echoed. Rebecca hugged Maya, whispering, "Your mother in heaven will be so proud." That evening, Maya sat on the floor, drawing with concentration. A short time later, she ran to Alex. "Dad, I finished my drawing." "Look," Alex took the paper. On it was a simple drawing. 4 people holding hands under a house with a red roof. A little girl stood next to a tall man. On the other side were a woman with long hair and an elderly woman with silver hair, all smiling under a bright blue sky. Alex froze, his eyes blurring. This is your family?" Maya nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining. "Yes, this is my real family." Alex pulled her close, his voice cracking. "Now you have a real home." "And I have a family again." Night fell. Alex tucked Maya into her small bed. She hugged her old doll, a smile on her lips. She turned slightly toward the window, where the night sky shined with countless stars, and whispered softly, "Mom, I'm happy now." Alex stood in the doorway, his shadow stretching across the floor. He watched silently as the girl drifted into a peaceful sleep. This story is not just the journey of Alex and Maya. It is proof of a simple, eternal truth. No matter how harsh life is, the light of love and justice will always triumph over darkness. If you believe that every person, no matter how small or broken, deserves a home, a place they can call peace, I want to hear from you. How did you feel walking alongside Maya in this story? Please leave a comment to share it with us. Tell us what city you are listening from. And please give today's story a rating from 1 to 10. Thank you for listening.